What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. I got my main man, my partner, my brother here.
If you don't know, now you know. Thanks for having me again, bro. Always the most charismatic man in entertainment.
My man. So we've got a situation here that I definitely wanted to come on and talk about, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So we've got an article courtesy of New York Times, which says Robert Downey Jr. set to return to Marvel as Dr. Doom. The article goes on to say Robert Downey Jr. is going from superhero to supervillain. The actor, who entertained audiences as Iron Man for more than a decade in several Hollywood blockbusters, is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the villain Victor Von Doom in two upcoming movies. New mask, same task, Downey announced at a Comic-Con event in San Diego on Saturday, after he unveiled the character's signature silver mask and green cloak to the roar of a cheering crowd. "What can I tell you?" he said. "I like playing complicated characters." Downey is set to appear as the character simply known as Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday, which is expected to be released in May 2026, and Avengers Secret Wars a year later. Downey has been a prolific actor since the 1980s, portraying characters both serious and comedic. He received Academy Award nominations for his portrayal of the actor Charlie Chaplin in the 1992 film Chaplin, and for his role in the 2008 war comedy Tropic Thunder. After multiple probation violations stemming from an arrest on drug and weapons charges, he was sentenced to prison in 1999 and overcame a long battle with substance abuse. Now, basically, this last part was the focal point of a conversation started by comedian Godfrey, who basically took issue with Robert Downey Jr. being cast as Doomsday in place of Jonathan Majors, who was supposed to be starring as Kang the Conqueror in Avengers Kang Dynasty. And essentially, he had some words for Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel for the recent announcement. So basically, I wanted to read what he said, and then I want to get your thoughts. So Godfrey says, Robert Downey Jr. is set to play Dr. Doom. He replaces Jonathan Majors. Now, a lot of backlash has been happening because of this. Because, Robert Downey Jr., who has a criminal record, drug possession, all kinds of shit, by the way. I love Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the baddest actors around. Love him, love Iron Man, Charlie Chaplin, all of that. I mean, the boy is bad as shit, but Jonathan Majors is getting a raw deal, man. Why can't they forgive him? This is one little thing that happened. First of all, there was a white woman chasing his ass. That's all I'm saying. I think the guy should be forgiven, but I don't want to bring up race. Why does it have to be about race? Well, obviously it is about race, and it's kind of unfair because white actors can do, he says, white actors can do what they want, be on heroin, be in rehab, all kinds of shit. And they get chances. They get other chances to redeem themselves, and it's always an amazing story. He was in rehab, and then he came back and won an Oscar. You understand where I'm coming from? It's the same thing they do to Denzel. Denzel should have 5 Oscars by now, but they limit him to 2. He should have them for Malcolm X. He should have them for Man on Fire, John Q. All I'm saying is, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the hidden, can we say, racism. Yeah, Jonathan Majors is such a fantastic actor. Lovecraft Country, he killed it. Creed 3, he killed it. He's so fantastic. And then they have forgiven him. Oh, check this out. Why don't they? Jonathan Majors, why don't they have Jonathan Majors play a white man in the Marvel Universe? How about that? Because Robert Downey Jr. got to play a black man in Tropic Thunder, which he killed, by the way. And that's the cool thing. See, white actors can play us, but we can't play them. You understand? And they could play us and then stop being black and then go back to being white and get advantages. I think that's a little unfair. It's a little bit unfair. I'm a little disappointed in you, Hollywood. Jonathan Majors deserves a chance. He should be in Marvel. How could you do that to this guy? He's a great actor. He's learned his lesson. I think that's pretty sad. We're supposed to be supposedly progressive instead. Instead of it being 2024, it's still 1924. Since we all have these disparities, these racial disparities, since it's a multiverse in Marvel, why can't we have different verses, different racial universes? Just have a whole black Marvel universe, right? You can have an Indian one, an Asian one, an Arab one. Why can't we have our own universe, huh? So you won't have to fire black actors or anything like that. How about this instead of the Avengers? We have the Revengers, huh? Getting our revenge on the white man. Or what about this? The Malcolm X-Men, huh? Hell yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying it's just an idea. So now you just, gave me that little disclaimer before we started, and you said that you have a, different type of opinion on this that I might be surprised by. So what's your take on this, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. I may not be the Hulk, but this is about to be incredible. Now, check this out. Now, I normally agree with everything Godfrey said, and I actually do agree with everything he said. But one thing that stood out to me that a lot of people in the comments started a conversation on was time, right? Because we all know in 2024, cancel culture exists. And what Robert Downey Jr. did was 20 years ago. Now, that's not to say what he did was right. Doesn't mean he didn't suffer consequences, but it was a different era. And I think that is important because don't get me wrong, Hollywood still has a lot of issues with racism. It is clearly evident. Anybody who disagrees is lying. But he also was in Hollywood at a time where we didn't have this whole fascination with canceling people. For instance, I don't know if you ever watched the Flash TV show, but there was one actor, Harley Sawyer, white guy. People found out tweets. This was about 2020, 2021, when people found old tweets he had on Twitter. And ultimately, he got axed from the show, and he hasn't appeared in anything since. The dude has been radio silent, hasn't been offered a gig. Agents dropped him, managers dropped him, dude just disappeared. Ezra Miller as the Flash, same thing. People found out he was doing things with minors. And the Flash came out. He disappeared too. Nobody talks about him. He hasn't been offered a role since. And I think that is the biggest thing, is because when we're talking about Marvel has grew their fan base. They have grew their enterprise. And Robert Downey Jr. came up in a time where people didn't really give too much of people didn't care as much as they do now. Meaning back then you could do certain things and still be successful because we didn't have this cancel culture that we living in. So Jonathan Majors, unfortunately, being a black man, he was going to get it regardless. And I think that if he would have did what he did 20 years ago, he would still have a career. But I think we live in a society now where the moment you do wrong, especially when you're famous, people try to cancel you immediately. And for a corporation as big as Marvel, because Deadpool and Wolverine has helped Marvel cross, I think, $30 billion in the box office. The first franchise to do that. They're not going to risk their representation, their livelihood, their brand, everything that they have tied to this on Jonathan Majors, who is a phenomenal actor and deserves a second chance. But I think it's too soon for them to risk any backlash they would get for putting him in those movies. So now, some people might say, well, there's other white actors that have been given second chances. Well, look at Will Smith. Will Smith is one of the biggest names in Hollywood, top 5 right now of all time. And this dude did something 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and people still talk about it to this day. Why? It's not because Will Smith, people feel, Will Smith did something stupid. It's because people want to cancel Will Smith because they don't like how successful he is. They see a black man doing well and they want to cancel him. Now, like I said, race does play a big part in it. But at the same time, we have never seen a time in our society where people are too quick to judge and persecute people in the public. So what people like, I'll use an example. There's been a lot of rappers in the 1990s, early 2000s, who's rapping about shooting up people, doing all types of nonsense. And they were still getting big movie roles. Ice Cube, for instance. And I'm not calling them out anything, but there's been a lot of rappers who was, touting that dangerous lifestyle, and they were still getting major opportunities. You don't see that in today's society. You don't see those rappers who are talking about shooting up the club and killing the ops on major movie deals and TV shows. Why? Because the industry has changed. A lot of producers and executives of these big corporations are not willing to risk their bottom line and their profit on someone, especially someone who isn't proven in that industry. So I do agree with Godfrey that racism does play a big part, but we're also talking about Robert Downey Jr., who went through this in the 2000 era. So this before Marvel became what it was. And let's be real. If we're just completely being honest here, and I'm not going to make this too long when I know you want to give your opinion, but Robert Downey Jr., how many people our age and younger, and I would say 35 or under, how many people really know about what Robert Downey Jr. did in the 2000s? Most people don't know that. And so a lot of people aren't watching Iron Man thinking, oh, he was a former drug addict. Why? Because nobody brings it up, because that was 20 years ago. Jonathan Majors, unfortunately, it happened recently, last year. So people are still fresh in their minds. People still have their opinions on it. People are still talking about it. And same thing with Will Smith. Bad Boys came out. The Oscar slap happened how many years? 2 years ago, and people still bring it up. But it's because we live in that cancel culture society where as soon as you do anything wrong, if Robert Downey Jr. was a drug addict in today's society, he would not be Iron Man. He would not be coming back. And so I think people need to realize, yes, racism is a big part in it, but also we have to blame ourselves, because our society is the one that created this toxic culture of the moment a celebrity slips up, we cancel them, we get them, we get rid of them, and they can't have a successful career. Now, before I continue, I'll let you give your thoughts.
Well, we're actually on the same page. So you and I actually agree pretty much for the most part. I mean, there's not a lot that you said that I actually don't agree with. Now, for as much as I like Godfrey, it's hard for me to want to disagree with him, but I have to. I see the point that he was trying to make, but it's just not valid in this situation. And I'll tell you why. For one, I think it's a great idea, first of all, that they bring back Robert Downey Jr. to be Victor Von Doom in Avengers Doomsday. Because if you look at the last, I would say 2-3 years, or maybe since Endgame, or I would say everything after Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home, the MCU has been making flops after flops, especially the Disney Plus shows. Now, again, I liked WandaVision, I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I kind of like, Secret Invasion to an extent, the one about, Nick Fury. I kind of liked it. It wasn't the best, but I liked it. Nonetheless, all of these, films and TV shows, for the most part, like I said, with the exception of the first two I mentioned, they all underperformed and flopped. Okay. So since then, the MCU has been in a very bad space. And I'm pretty sure they've been sitting in boardrooms trying to figure out how to turn things around. Now, granted, I mean, you haven't saw, Deadpool and Wolverine yet, but that movie was phenomenal for a lot of different reasons. And I'm gonna let you go see it without me actually spoiling it. But they're leveraging all of that, the hype from that movie, and they're making such a big announcement with, again, one of the most, if not the most beloved character from the MCU, period. So if they want to turn things around, then bring that old thing back. And they did that. Because now that's going to get butts in the seats. It's going to pique people's curiosity. So right. I don't see, again, I'm not saying for the people that are listening or for the people that feel that it's a bit redundant that they brought him back and maybe they should have gotten Cillian Murphy, I've been hearing, or another actor. Yeah, you're entitled to that. That's fine. I don't agree, but feel free to feel that way. But I think it's a good idea. Now, as for Jonathan Majors, okay, anybody that knows, about MCU films and how they performed, Ant-Man 3 did do well. Ant-Man 3 flopped. First of all, critically and commercially, that movie did not do well. And again, I'm not going to say that it was Jonathan Majors' fault, but again, he didn't really hit like a villain the way that people probably thought that he was going to hit, like the Kevin Feige's and the producers at Marvel. They were banking on this dude to be the next big thing. That's why even though that movie flopped, they were still going to give him his own Avengers movie anyway, because he's just that good of an actor. But in reality, between that movie not really hitting the way that it did, and then all that controversy that he had, it's a business decision. To me, this has nothing to do with race. I understand, race is a factor in Hollywood, but not in this situation. Because I know for damn sure if none of that happened, okay, Jonathan Majors, that movie would have still been called Kang Dynasty. He would have still been in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. They had to make a business decision. And right now, it makes sense to have Robert Downey Jr. take the reins of the next Avengers film and have the Russo brothers come back and direct it. So, in fact, they're actually better off now than they were with Jonathan Majors before the whole Grace Jabari domestic violence thing happened. This isn't about race, because at the end of the day, right, I can't put it on Kevin Feige and Marvel, for Jonathan Majors suffering. He brought that situation on himself. Because at the end of the day, yes, I don't think he was as abusive as the media and Grace Jabari trying to make him out to be and stuff like that. But that man knew damn well he was in a toxic ass relationship that was going downhill. And he chose to stay in that shit. He chose to stay in that shit too long. And then what happened? Shit hit the fan. And his career suffered for it. Any black man that's an entertainer, public figure, whatever, we know that we are not afforded the same social luxuries as white people and other races of people. You do one thing, yeah, it's a wrap. And he knew that. He knew that because the audio, of him talking to her and shit like that, he was saying, yo, I'm a very important person and all of this shit. So then you should have known. You should have known. If I have to have this conversation with you multiple times, then maybe I shouldn't be with you because now my career can be at risk. I'm pretty sure Avengers Doomsday is going to be a way better movie than King Dynasty is. Facts. Facts, hands down. Because again, I mean, me as an audience member, I wasn't all that impressed with Ant-Man 3. And I've seen other people share the same sentiment as me. Because you literally had a movie where Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be this big bad, the next Thanos, the next Ultron type of figure in the MCU, and you let Ant-Man and them beat him? This nigga was getting stamped, like trampled by oversized ants. I was like, you guys like fucked up the bag, like with that movie. Seriously. Because if you make a comparison between this phase of the MCU and prior, they were literally setting up Thanos the whole entire time. So by the time he showed up, it hit. Kang is supposed to be this next guy, and then like you let him get beat by the weakest crew in the MCU. So we're better off. We're better off. Now I'm gonna say this also. Black people, we have to understand, and especially like I would hope that Godfrey would listen to this. I mean, because this is facts and this is true. And I'm as pro-black as they come. You know this. You know this, bro.
Oh, yeah.
We are living in a racist white country. We will never have it our way. We will never have it our way in this racist ass white country. Hollywood is a white social construct for business. We don't own Hollywood. So even if, we go and say, oh, Jonathan Majors should still be the big, it ain't gonna matter. It ain't gonna matter. How many times do we publicly complain, collectively complain as a people about different grievances that we have with society, the media, etc.? Nothing ever happens. We don't own shit. Maybe if we actually owned our own shit, then maybe we could call the shots, but that's not gonna happen in this country. You see what I'm saying? You see, Robert Downey Jr. had a criminal record back in the day. Okay, well, first of all, like you said earlier, that was a long ass time ago. The average little kid, they don't know that. And then on top of that, he's white. He's not the only one that did wild shit back in the day, and then they just wiped it off, wiped his slate clean like nothing happened. Didn't Mel Gibson have like a racist rant or some shit like on set somewhere? Didn't what is his name? Mark Wahlberg. Didn't he used to beat up black people in the late 80s? But he's still a huge star, right? People don't say anything about that. Ezra Miller, same thing. He was doing wild shit. His movie still came out. And I'm pretty sure at some point he's gonna resurface again and he's gonna start working. Okay, it's just the playing field is not even for us compared to them. I'm not even. I honestly, and I mean, you even said it last year when the charges and accusations came out about Jonathan Majors. You said it first. You were like, "Yo, this nigga's career is over." I was the one that was trying to hold out, on some hope that like things would turn around for him. But no, his career is over because this isn't just okay. Like a Will Smith, he went on stage and slapped a black man. He's fine because again, he slapped a black man. Let that have been a white person. Let that have been a white guy. Let that have been Will Smith versus a white person. It would have been a wrap. This was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl that said Jonathan Majors was physically abusing her. And even despite visual evidence of her chasing this man down the street, media, society, the United States of America collectively did not care. They did not care about blatant evidence that she was the aggressor. They were like, yo, you're done. You're done. Jonathan Majors might can get in some Tyler Perry movies or something, some black films or whatever, but I don't think his career is going to be the same. Because what happened to, what was his name? Nate Moore? The guy who was supposed to make that Nat Turner, film or some shit like that. Like, and then he was accused of, like raping a girl in college or some shit like that. She came out and, sued him, whatever. you ain't heard from this guy since. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's just what it is in America, period. That's just the standard. You fuck up, especially if you fuck up bad, you're done. And I would never expect a freaking practically, oil tycoon of a company in terms of how much money they make, Disney, to then stick to a guy that's going to make them look bad. Because at the end of the day, yeah, like, we're adults. We go, a lot of adults go and see Marvel movies, but kids go see them too. Now, I mean, I don't know if kids are going to go see Deadpool. I mean, I don't know about that. The movie's a little kind of wild. But for the most part, these films are also marketed to kids. So kids are going to be looking at like, wow, I heard about Jonathan Majors beating up this girl. He's still in the movies. I want to be like him. I mean, again, like, obviously parenting is a factor in that, but again, that's the rationale for kids. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, if we stand by this guy, if we continue to have a working relationship with this guy, what type of statement are we making if we maintain this public relationship with him? Because remember, I say all the time, like, the relationships you have with people, you're making a statement when you associate yourself closely with somebody. They had to cut ties. To me, this wasn't a matter of race completely, because, I mean, possibly would they still stick with him if he was a white guy? I mean, again, I don't know. I would have to ask Kevin Feige, but I'm pretty sure race wasn't really a factor in their decision at the end of the day, because in the court of law, he was found guilty. I'm pretty sure if he was found innocent, which that wouldn't happen, but let's say if he was, they probably would have stuck by him. Because it's like this. If Marvel really had a bad opinion about Jonathan Majors being black, then why would they throw the bag at this dude and be like, you know what? Not only are we going to make you the villain of this film, we're going to give you 2 Avengers films that you're going to be in. And one of them is going to have your character's name on it. And you were front and center. Like, yo, come on, you never really see that. He's black. And then we're going to make the next Avengers film about him. How much money do Avengers films make? Damn near $1 billion. And if you're the guy, the bag. He was going to get the bag. They threw the bag at this dude. So I do not think it's about race. And at the end of the day, black people, you're going to have to let this Jonathan Majors shit go at the end of the day. And because he's a man, he chose to be with a toxic ass girl that ruined his life. He knew what it was. Yes, I supported him. And I still like Jonathan Majors now. But that's just the reality of being an adult, of being in a relationship. You see shit is toxic and you don't walk away and you get fucked up in the process. I mean, people can't really feel bad for you at that point when you knew better. You feel what I'm saying? We're not dealing with a guy that was just, he was asleep somewhere and he was just taking advantage of. No, he consciously stayed with her, and Kevin Feige, Disney, and everybody else, they had to make an executive decision to walk away from him. And then they went back to the pretty much, other than Wesley Snipes, the forefather of modern MCU. Because Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., he was the guy. It ain't Spider-Man. It's not Captain America. It's not Thor. It's RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. And that movie is going to be very successful. I have a very good feeling about that movie. Not only is it going to be good, that movie's going to make a lot of money, and then it's going to spark new life into the MCU. So right now, yes, the MCU is in a bad space, but now you got Deadpool, Hugh Jackman, you got Robert Downey Jr. coming back too. Come on, man. Come on, bro. I'm not missing. I'm not gonna watch, Avengers Doomsday and feel like, damn, yo, Jonathan Majors should have been in it, man. I'm not gonna feel like that at all. And then hopefully, like I said, Jonathan Majors can bounce back. But again, let's not pull the race card all willy nilly. You know what I mean? Pull the race card when it matters, when it's valid. This is not a valid situation where you could pull the race card. So, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, now you're right. And I gotta say, like, I will be optimistic and say the guard is changing. The things that used to fly 20, 30, 40 years ago is not flying no more. So you're seeing a lot of these famous producers, actors who, was getting away with a lot of stuff. They're finally getting their due. There was one Nickelodeon executive producer who's been on every show that we've watched as kids plus more. And his career is over because he's doing things, with minors that he shouldn't be doing with.
What, Dan Schneider?
No. It's a whole separate guy. I can't remember his name. He's not as well known as Snyder, but I will say cancel culture has been great because we're finally allowing people who have power to finally get their just due. Because for so long, P Diddy, they was getting along, they was getting away with it. Now they have to answer for those consequences. But at the same time, like you said, how many people last year? And I said I support Jonathan Majors, but his career is over. And how many people went online making jokes? Oh yeah, this dude is a women beater. He did this, he did that. His career is over, right? These are the same people who scream racism, and I understand it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, there's still some of that racism flowing through Hollywood. Let's just keep it real. But at the same time, the system we created is also ones we can't complain about, because the same people who utilize cancel culture, you can't run back when you finally realize, hey, maybe we should have gave him a little leeway because you finally saw the outcome of the situation. And that's the biggest problem, is that people like Marvel, they have the ears to the ground. They're not idiots, and they see trending Jonathan Majors, woman beater. They don't want that for a movie, and people need to realize, if Marvel wants to be, have Jonathan Majors built the franchise and all that stuff going forward. But at the same time, they don't want people in the movie theaters like, oh, like if there's women beater, they don't want to do that because that's going to ruin their profit. It's going to ruin the other actors' hard work and everybody else behind the scenes. So, I do think Jonathan Majors will get a bounce back. But like I said, I think it's too soon. I think maybe, a year or two from now, he will, blow through that. And I use this as an example. Johnny Depp has been one of the biggest names in Hollywood for the last 30 years. And look what happened to him. Even after the trial, after people riled, behind him, you haven't heard a peep from Johnny Depp in a while. Like, the dude doesn't get movie deals. He doesn't get anything. Why? Because the public has slandered this man's name to the point where even before the trial, people thought he was guilty. His career was over. And nobody want to work with him. And so this is the problem of cancel culture, is that, when you get in the public eye and people start persecuting you in the public, Hollywood is a profit business. This is not a non-for-profit. This is a profit business. And so unless you're Will Smith, unless you're one of those real big names that they know he's going to guarantee us some money, they're not going to be willing to risk their names and their bottom line on you. And so, people don't like Robert Downey Jr. coming back. I'm indifferent on it. I say, let's see what happens. I do think, there's been some conspiracy theories that they're probably using him to launch somebody else, which I think they will, because, he's 60 years old. How many action movies he want to keep doing at 60? But, I do think, Godfrey, he is right, but he's also missing a mark that this culture is to stay. No matter what you do, if you get caught in the public eye with your pants down, it's a wrap for you. And like I said, Robert Downey Jr., if he was a drug addict today, he would not be in these movies. And we need to stop acting like he would, because he wouldn't. Now, like I said, like you said, when you're white, you might get another chance. It may not be that quick, but you'll probably get it. But at the end of the day, cancel culture is the cause of all this. And I can't blame Marvel, because at the end of the day, they have budgets that they got to fill. They got, pays. They got to pay the actors, the people behind the scenes. And they're not going to be willing to risk a project for someone who, one, is not a household name like that yet, and two, just business. No business is going to put somebody on the face of a brand and potentially lose money. That's not how people make money. So it's a tough situation, and I do think a situation like this might help Jonathan, but again, it's too soon, and maybe in 2027, 2028, they might bring him back. But as of right now,
nah. I mean, because again, I'm not sure how closely you watch like Marvel, shows and movies and stuff like that. But they wrapped it up with Loki season 2. I don't know if you saw it, but Kang is done. The way that they ended it saying like, all right, yeah, we're going. So the TVA, which is in Deadpool and Wolverine, they're just basically going from timeline to timeline, getting rid of Kang variants. So he's done. Like, he's gone. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, it's like them bringing him back, like, as some sort of weird redemption to me is like reheating cold French fries. Like, no, like, y'all was supposed to rock with him when the pot was hot. And unfortunately, he fucked up the bag. So you don't rock with him no more. The MCU needs to move forward. I mean, yes, Kang, honestly, I was really excited to see like the Rama Tut, who is like basically he's a variant of Kang that goes back to ancient Egypt and takes over ancient Egypt. And then he starts calling himself Ramatut. Like that was the one that I really wanted to see. Even though the way that they designed his like that character was a little fucking weird because his whole torso was fucking missing. And I actually didn't even see that in the movie. I saw that after the fact. But yeah, man, it's just what it is, bro. Like I don't want them to backtrack. I just want them to move forward. I want to see Jonathan move forward. However, that works. But again, I know that when you're black and they say you're difficult to work with or you have that domestic abuser label, unless you had a substantial career and fan base before that, you got hit with that, it's a wrap. Because like, all right, like look at somebody like Chris Brown. Chris Brown built a substantial name for himself before all of that shit happened. And mind you, he was only out in 2 years. And then really all he had to do was go on an apology tour throughout the rest of 2009, most of 2010, until he came back, with his next big album in 2011 with Fame. Jonathan Majors, Defy Bloods, because he was in that, Lovecraft Country, Creed, and Ant-Man is not enough. I think maybe if, let's say, Ant-Man 3 was like a huge success, like I'm talking about it did Civil War numbers, Spider-Man Homecoming numbers, then I feel like they were probably less likely to move on from his character, and maybe they would have recast, because I feel like that's what people really wanted. Even if they felt like, all right, Jonathan Majors wasn't going to come back, a lot of people wanted them to just move forward with the Kang storyline and just recast the role. I was even hearing that motherfucking Damson Idris might have ended up fucking, doing that role and stuff like that. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out because, again, it's not that crazy of a storyline. You know what I mean? Maybe it would have been. Maybe not. I don't know. But I have a feeling that, again, that movie, Avengers Doomsday, is going to be fire. It's going to be fire. Better what a Kang Dynasty would have been. Because, again, I feel like what they can do with a Doctor Doom is a little bit... And again, I mean, because I liked the idea and I liked the different Kang variants. Because I don't know if you saw Ant-Man 3, but that movie ended with a stadium full of Kang variants. And I mean, but there was, the main three. So it was going to be basically Kang versus his other variants that don't like him. And I'm pretty sure at some point in that movie, he probably would have turned around and helped the Avengers get rid of the evil Kang variants. I'm pretty sure that's probably what would have ended up happening if he was going to end up being in Secret Wars anyway. And I don't even, they don't even follow the comic books that closely anyway for me to even really know what Secret Wars is going to be about. But still, at the end of the day, I don't mind, where they're at with the decisions that they made. I feel like people need to fucking suck it up and get used to it. Get used to the shit. And I'm not saying that in a sense that I'm okay with racial disparities. I'm not, but I just recognize that no amount of complaining is going to change anything. We can't even get laws in place for black people dying. Needless to say, about telling somebody what to do with their own private media company or production company or film house, whatever. If we can't get police officers or the government to say, okay, we're going to pass hate crime bills and policing acts for black people getting shot, killed, and brutalized every motherfucking day, what makes me think I can tell Disney what to do with who they should recast and who they should put in their movies and who they should invest money in, so on and so forth? It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Right. If I can't get the government that's supposed to be serving me to do something for my own benefit, then how am I going to get, a business to do something that's just going to boost my ego about being black and about, an actor that I like being in their films or not? We just have to be realistic about that shit. And I also wanted to address something real quick. So he said that it's the same thing they do to Denzel. Denzel should have 5 Oscars by now. Now, my thing is this, and we talked about this a little bit when Angela Bassett got snubbed at the Oscars. I'm assuming that was last year. I don't remember how long ago that was. And my thing is this, why do we as black people place so much emphasis on white accolades? And I said that before. Like, does Denzel not having 5 Oscars take away from any of those performances that he mentioned? Malcolm X, Man on Fire, John Q. Like, I don't really understand, that. Because at the end of the day, the performance validates itself. Whether a white person wants to pat you on the back, for your performance or not, really, that's up to them. Because my thing is, we can't you know, criticize white people for what they're doing or not doing and then try to ask them for shit in that same conversation. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, we don't own anything about Hollywood whatsoever, unless, you know, you're Tyler Perry and you got your own thing going on, you know. But again, he's like an anomaly where he has his own studio and then he's a writer, director, producer all in one. You know what I'm saying? Most black directors, they rarely, if ever, get that luxury. So he's an anomaly. We can't, you know, say, fuck you, you know, for not doing this, but also say, oh, but can you give this person an Oscar? We don't own the Oscars. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I said this before. I said collectively, we need to step away from these things if we don't like what's going on. So if I don't like the food that's being served at this restaurant, then let me just go elsewhere. And if I can't find something that will give me what I need, then why not create it myself? Because one thing that he says, which it'll perfectly segue into that, is he says, why can't we make our own, you know, universes? And it says you can have an Indian one, an Asian one, an Arab one. Why can't we have, you know, a universe of our own? Well, you know what's funny? Indian people do have their own cinematic universes. It's called Bollywood. You feel what I'm saying? Asian people had the same thing. Arabs, I'm pretty sure they have the same thing. Where they at? But we have yet to do that for ourselves because, again, we're living in a country where white people generally tend to own the infrastructure for everything cinema-wise. Yeah, you can probably crowdfund, you know, GoFundMe, whatever, but it's not going to measure up to that, you know, level of, you know, widespread appeal like the MCU has. But it's like this again, raises the conversations that I've always had, which is if you're not getting what you need from this specific entity, I guess in this case, white people, then why not just get it out the mud yourself? If you can, and start small. You know what I mean? Like everything does not have to be an Avengers film, but you could just create stories and then make them and then build from there.
No, you're right. But you know, I definitely agree with Godfrey. I do think Denzel and many other talented actors deserve to win Oscars and Academy Awards for their performances. But like you said, well, I don't even think it's mostly white privilege. I think it's about favoritism because ultimately a lot of these award shows is not about who's the best person. It's usually of, you know, we like this person a little more this year. You know, we like the performance. We'll give it to them. That's really how it goes because sometimes I watch these award shows and you wonder, how did this role beat out this role? Like, that don't make no sense, but you know, that's a conversation for another time.
Right. And then one last thing. He said, why don't they have Jonathan Majors play a white man in the Marvel Universe? How about that? Because Robert Downey Jr. got to play a black man in Tropic Thunder, which he killed, by the way, and that's cool. Thing is, see, white actors can play us, but we can't play them. Well, I mean, my counter to that is that Nick Fury originally was white in the comics, and they cast Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. There are roles that Will Smith was cast for that originally were supposed to be white characters. So, yeah, we do get to play, you know, like, how should I say, colorblind, you know, roles. And more often than not, sometimes those are the best ones that'll have the most appeal. Because Kang is not black. Kang, the Conqueror, was a white character. Rama Tut is a white character. And so are the other Kang variants. So, yes, we do get to play white characters. So, I'm not sure if you did any research, you know, as far as that's concerned before he said that. But, yeah, that's what I'm saying. This isn't about race. This isn't about race. Like, you know, straight up, period. Anyway, on that note, what are your thoughts? Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.
Peace.